Good morning, welcome to Shul.com. We are here researching. There was an interesting story, Joe, that happened in Eretz Israel. There was a lady who lived in the south in a city called OFAKIM. And when the Hamas terrorists came to pretty much shoot up and kill everybody in her house, as they did previously, she took a different route. She saw these terrorists, and she said to them, "You guys look a little bit famished. Have some cookies inside and some tea. Would you guys like some cookies and tea?" Surprisingly, they acquiesced. She fed them. She made them some meals. She gave them to drink. They didn't kill her or her husband. And I have the Ynet article here. It's in Hebrew, so I read the whole thing. It's like maybe 6 pages to understand all the details. There's a lot of details to the story, but in short, she fed the terrorists, and Baruch Hashem, her son was I think in the police department. He got hold of what was going on. He came in through the IDF. They were able to rescue her and her husband, and they killed all the terrorists, and she survived. This is a wild story. So right away when this happened, I called Rabbi Daniel Glatstein. I don't know her observant or religious level, but for the purpose of this, she is a Jew, and Borei Olam loves all of his children. Banim atem laHashem. God doesn't care if you're religious or not. He loves you the way you are, but He wants you to be observant for your benefit, for your own good. But God loves you the way you are. That's for sure. So anyway, at the end, she ends up getting saved. I found this to be interesting because there's no other case or situation of this, like this happening, that we know so far. Okay, so we're talking, Yossi, about the Rachel from OFAKIM. Remember Rachel from OFAKIM? She became very famous. She's now, they're putting her picture everywhere. They want to mint a coin for her.
She's going to meet Biden.
Oh yeah? Wow, so it's unbelievable. So I called Rabbi Daniel Glatstein and I said, this is wild. I said to him, is there a source for this in the Torah? A source. Does the Hachamim say that if terrorists are coming and you feed them, does that help? I tell him, the Torah is very big. You have Gemariot.
No?
Yeah. So we're going to learn it today. There's Talmud Bavli, there's Yerushalmi, there's Farim, there's Mechiltas, Sifras, Toseftas. There's I think on Otzara Chochmah 180,000 Sfarim. So I told him, and Rabbi Glatstein, he's my favorite sorcerer. I don't mean sorcerer, but I mean he knows how to source out anything. And so I spoke with him. He's like, yeah, he sent me a source, and today we're going to talk about the source. So it's unbelievable. It's actually a pasuk in Mishle. Take a look in Mishle Kaf Hey. Im ra'ev son'a'acha ha'achileu lachem. If you have an enemy, a soneh that hates you, feed him a meal. Let's take a look at what he says here. This is coming from Netivot Olam, Netiv Koach Hayetzer 1. Ve'im tzameh, and if your enemy that hates you is thirsty, hashkiu mayim, give him water to drink. She gave him tea to use water. Now he says, Ki gehalim ata chote al rosho. Because when you're doing that, when you feed your enemy food and you drink him water, you're taking gehalim's coals and you're putting it on his head.
Why?
So let's take a look. Let's see what he has to say here. It's unbelievable what he says here. And he says also, Hashem yishalem lach. Hashem will reward you on the spot if you do that. What? Again, this is Mishle. We're coming here to learn wild stuff. Remember, I'm not bringing here the regular goods. I told you guys, if you want the regular goods, it's like 4 or 5 other shuls. They'll serve you everything that you've already heard since you're in 1st grade. You're coming here to learn stuff that you'd never heard before. So let's take a look. שלמה המלך רס"ד אומר כי אם רעב שונאך אל תמנע מלהאכיל אותו לחם ולרחם על שונאך להאכיל אותו לחם. If you have a hater, Shlomo HaMelech is telling you feed him and have mercy on him to feed him. Why? כי הרחמנות הפך האויב. It will flip the enemy from a hater to a maybe neutral. I think in Hamas cases, I don't think they loved her, but I think it was enough to leave her alive, which is, life is everything we have here. כי כאשר הוא מרחם עליו, מתקשר ומתאחד עמו וכמה שהערכנו בזה בעניין הצדקה. He says, when you have rachamim, it's not only you having rachamim on the other person, you're actually changing reality here.
But this is not rachamim, this is trickery.
Well, first off, she did it for the sake of maybe trickery in order to save her life. But what was the reality? It was a hater, and she fed him.
Correct.
And so you're right. Her intention may not have been feeding Shlomo HaMelech and doing that. But I told you, when we're looking at the Torah, we're looking at what were the events, what transpired, and what can we learn from here to carry itself over. So again, she probably didn't. And the enemy is against the other person. What is it saying that you put coals on his head? Is that you pretty much eliminate the hatred that was there, dissipated. And she says in the article how right when she did that, they all calmed down big time. They all suddenly went from level 10 to level 2. She said there was one of them that kept on saying he's a shaheed. He wants to go and he wants to shoot everybody up. But other than that, she says everybody else calmed down big time. She says, when you do this, you are eliminating the enemy. When you have mercy, and you connect yourself with the one who hates you, from the mercy, he loses the energy and the power to hate. He may still hate, but the power to go act on the hate gets eliminated from feeding him food and drinking him water. He says more than that, God's going to pay you on the spot for this. Because this person is going from one end to another. The enemy hates the person. And this guy is having mercy. Hashem says, listen, if someone hates and someone's love, I'm going to help the one who loves. I'm for sure going to save them. That's how it works with tzedakah, giving money to poor people. Okay. What did the Mefarshim say? When you feed him food, they get embarrassed. There's a level of embarrassment even to a terrorist to feed. And the Arab world, my parents are Arab, Lebanese. My grandparents are Iraqi, Lebanese, Arabs, from Iraq, and they moved to Lebanon. We have Arab culture. The Sfaradim, all Sfaradim from the Middle East have it. We hug each other, we love, when it comes to food, we share. And that's something that all of our cousins, Bnei Ishmael, have it too. We have a lot,
hospitality.
It's hospitality, and more so than not, we have a lot more in common with the Arab and Muslim world than people think. We're much closer to them than we think. More so than not, all this radical stuff is not even found in the Quran. It's not even based in any way in the Quran at all. So it's kind of interesting, but because my father told me his best friends were Muslims in Lebanon. They had great relationships with them. There were, of course, fringes and things that caused problems, but for the most part, even in Yemen, they got along for 1,000 years. They had respect for each other. There was an akhdut. There was some form of akhdut between our cousins and us. And he says, when you feed a person that hates you, he's mitbayesh, especially an Arab who...
That's what they do in the Shabbat when they arrest somebody. They give him cigarette, they give him coffee.
I heard in Beit Sha'an, they told me one of the Israeli guys, he worked in the police department, he told me they used to have all ready joints with hashish at all times for the terrorists. Anytime a terrorist came in, right away they had like multiple types of joints with hashish. They'd feed him, they let him smoke, relax for an hour. They're not going. They said relax, chill out, and then they'll sit and talk with the guy. They're not putting the guy under pressure in that other way. So he says, because you did good for the person. He's going to be embarrassed. He goes, don't think that when it says Shlomo HaMelech that you're putting coals on his head that you're burning the guy. He goes, you're not. That's not what it's talking about. In Tet Vav. מוכיח דבשונא רשע גמור מדבר שכך אמרו שם מה ראתה אסתר שהזמינה המן לסעודה? What did Esther HaMalka see that she invited Haman to come to the meal? שם דכתיב אם רעב שונאך אכילהו לחם. She was doing this pasuk that if she had an enemy, Haman, feed him, invite him to the meal. ואם שמח הוא השקהו מים Let him drink water, or in that case it was wine. Ki gehalim ata hotel d'rasho v'Hashem yishalem lach. Ev al tikrei yishalem lach, ela yishalimenu lach. It will be given to you. When the enemy gets a form of parnasa, like a meal, he can't. He loses something. And I had an advice from a friend of mine. He said, if you really don't like someone, buy him a gift. Buy him a nice gift. He said to me, if you have what they call a sichsuch, a vikuach with someone, go buy him a nice pen. Buy him a Montblanc pen, buy him something nice. Now, the guy...
I feel a Yehudi.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm talking about a Yehudi. Even if it's not a Yehudi, if that, in that case, and he goes, and that helps. Because when somebody gets something from someone, he becomes in some form under him. The gift almost
warms his heart.
It warms heart and requires him to some form of a reciprocation of some sort. Because really, by you giving him this thing, you're putting coals on his head to quell whatever was the previous thoughts. And God's going to pay you. He's going to help you on this. This is a tremendous and very valuable perush if you can understand what's going on here. He's giving you a tactic. This is a Segula, that if you hate somebody or if somebody hates you, give him a gift. Feed him a meal. Take him to a nice meal. You don't have to be his best buddy in the beginning. Remember, this was talking about Rachel from OFAKIM and terrorists. But she did it. And Shlomo HaMelech tells you, it works. It works in every case, every situation. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen v'Amen.